Welcome to Codex Rex, the video game history podcast. I'm your host, Tyler.
And I am your co-host, Dachz.
Hey, Dachz. Good to see you, man.
It is good to see you, man. It really is.
Yeah, Dachz and I were talking about how I was like, Dachz, I've got an episode ready. And then I was like, it was like last summer that we recorded.
Didn't we record like 2 weeks ago? No, it was 8 months ago.
It was 8 months ago, yes. So I guess probably a good little recap is in order on, we don't have to explain ourselves on why we don't get episodes out quickly. But a big thing for me is that I got like an actual full-time job doing political work again, another big boy job, as I call it. Can't tell you much about it, but it is the best job I have maybe had in my life. So it is completely consuming my entire week and sometimes beyond, but it's been a lot of fun. So that's kind of been a big reason that I haven't been putting out episodes. That, and of course, you know me, I'm a man of 1,000 hobbies. I really got into last fall digitizing VHS tapes. So I'm sure you saw in the Discord. Did you not see in the Discord when I was posting all those crazy commercials? Do you remember this?
Ever since I've gotten a full-time job, I also just skim the Discord, and I don't like, not to be impolite, but if you when you write long things, I don't read them entirely.
So you just don't read anything that I write, then?
It's going to be something dirty. It's fine. So I might have missed the VHS digitizing.
So yeah. What happened was that last fall I had a discussion with my mother about how some of the old tech, like VHS tapes are like wearing out. And I was like, are we ever going to get this digitized? And she was like, well, it's kind of expensive. And I was like, I'm sure I could do it. I'm unemployed because I was unemployed last fall. Yeah. And that has been a 6-month or more odyssey of me just ripping VHS tapes. And now what my favorite thing I've gotten out of this, other than preserving my old family history, is I built an old commercial randomizer for the stream, and it's all just old, weird commercials.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yes. So that's been fun. That's been a side project. That, and I took up longboarding. Like, I'm sure people are sick of hearing me talk about it, but, decided in my late 30s I was going to learn how to skateboard. And Andrea's been going out skating with me too. I've been joking it's my midlife crisis activity, which I guess is a pretty...
It almost seems like your unemployment led you straight into a midlife crisis.
It's really funny. We were walking down the street the one day, and there's this woman, and she saw us, and she saw that Andrea had her rollerblades and I had my skateboard, and she said, "Oh, you off training for the Olympics?" And Andrea goes, "Nope, just having some midlife crisis level exercise." Right? So, she's leaning into it too. But what have you been up to, man?
Yeah, I've been working. That's about everything I do. I try to maintain like a few hobbies, which is mostly trying to get people to play tabletop role-playing games with me, which is really difficult, as you can imagine, because people never have time for stuff like that. But I'm managing to do it occasionally, and that is something I can spend time on. But most of the time, I'm working or taking care of the family, and that is all I do. And that's also why I don't make episodes. Yes.
Yeah, true that. I never begrudge you for not having time to write episodes. So, well, I know you've been playing a little bit of games. What have you been up to? What have you been playing, like video game wise?
When I was a kid, I had the PS1 and I played a lot of Spyro. And I had the Reignited trilogy because they remade the games. And so now I'm trying to get like perfect scores on all 3 Spyro games. And that has been really relaxing, because I know as a kid I found these games incredibly difficult. They are still hard at times, but not as hard as I remember them. And that was really relaxing. And I also played a Zectronic, but it's not a Zectronics game, but a Zeg-like. If people that know what a Zeg-like is will know what it is, and all the other people that I don't care about. It's a game called Signo, where you basically build little computers that do things for you. Just
that I hear about that, and I'm like, yeah, that's a Dachz game. That's the kind of game that would work for your brain. Yeah.
Have you been playing any cool games?
Helldivers 2 is still sort of the multiplayer game of choice in the Discord these days. We went through a Soul Calibur 6 phase because I love Soul Calibur.
But it's like a fighting game, right?
It is a fighting game. I don't really play a lot of fighting games, but any game that lets me make custom characters with large, stupid weapons, I tend to be really into. And so I've been playing Soul Calibur since back on the PS1 days when it was Soul Blade. Long ago. But yeah, we did a stint of that. And then Slay the Spire 2 came out recently, and it is really good. It's like really good.
It very good things about it.
Yeah, the big things I would say that are good are like mechanically, it's really good. It needs a little bit of polish, I feel, because it's early access. But there's multiplayer. So you can play up to 4 people. And basically how it works is like the enemy, when it's going to hit, if it's going to hit for 10 damage, it hits everybody with the exact same ability. And then it just like quadruples its health. Oh, nice. So it has more health, but everybody takes the same damage and mitigates the same way. And then there's like multiplayer cards you can use that have been a ton of fun. And Andrea and I have been playing a bunch of it.
If I would have to think about a game that had a consistent part in my life for a very long time as something that I always came back to and was of incredibly high quality, it is Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire
absolutely
is it's not one of the best games I've ever played. It's just so consistently good that you can always come back to it. It's always fun.
Yep.
And when I heard that the second part is coming out, I was like, "Wow, this is ambitious to do the second part of something that was so good." But then I thought, maybe if they just build on it, could be good.
Yeah, but it's kind of just more of the same, honestly, which is what's fun about it.
Yeah, my skepticism has not yet dwindled, so I'm not. Also, I don't want to like always do impulse buying of everything, but I have not touched it yet, but I've heard good things.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's good stuff. So, well, I guess we should probably tell people where to find us. If you want to find me, I'm Vegan Tyler on Twitch. We also have a Discord for the podcast and also my stream. You can come hang out in it. I usually put links to that in the show notes. We love meeting new folks who come from the podcast or anywhere else. You can find both me and the podcast on Blue Sky. And if you ever need to email us, you can do that at codexrexpodcast@gmail.com.
And if for any
that's about it.
If you want to find me, you can always ping me in the Discord, but you can also write me fan mail. I've been receiving pounds and pounds of fan mail for the last few years because I am the more popular guy of the two of us. And I sometimes send Tyler a few, so if he doesn't feel as bad. So yeah, send me mail.
Yeah, it's really
ping me on Discord.
Yeah, it's kind of clear on some of those that you just scribbled out your own name, but I appreciate the thought, my friend. Yeah. All right. Well,
shall we start?
Shall we get into it?
Yes, please.
Yes, let's actually do it, or we'll ramble forever. So.
Right. So what do we have for me?
All right.
Where do we start?
All right. First, you're going to look at these two folks. Adam Powell was born in Newport, Wales in 1976. I don't have much on his upbringing, but the earliest story that I have from Adam is that he claims that he started coding on his ZX Spectrum at the age of 5. Maybe that's true, but have you ever met a 5-year-old, right? Do you imagine that those 5-year-olds are out coding? Like, that seems really far-fetched to me, but whatever. That's what he claims, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't want to get into thinking about if this is true or if this is just another Peter Molyneux thing. I don't know. Let's not start into thinking about this person might be a compulsive liar, but okay, he's coding at 5.
He's coding at 5. All right. So he said in his youth that he became obsessed with computer games and role-playing games. In school, he said he would write his like a choose your own adventure book. Like he would write them, but they weren't very good because he was a kid. He went to school in Surrey, England, and that was where he met a woman named Donna Williams. She was from Surrey, and she was into horseback riding and making sculptures. The two of them became friends, and then they started dating. Both of them went to the University of Nottingham in 1995. Adam was studying for a computer science degree and Donna went for an art degree. And while they were there, Adam wrote his first text-based adventure in QBasic. The plot was, as he put it, you had to go around our university halls of residence and battle piles of toxic rubbish and evil cleaning ladies, but I ran out of RAM before you left the door to go outside. Actually said the dorm, but So he's starting to make games. All right. He's getting, he claims he'd been coding for a long time, but he's actually starting to make things. In 1996, he and a friend created a MUD, an MUD, a multi-user domain called Darkheart on their university network. Quote, and I nearly got thrown off my course as a result. Which, I get that. You're in college. Then, in 1977, while he was still in college, he started a company called Shout Advertising, which was an online advertising program. Donna worked for this company as well. And so, just to be clear, I couldn't find much about Shout Advertising in my research, but I saw one suggestion that by 1999, it was the third largest click-through program on the internet. But I just want to be clear, I can't confirm that. That company was eventually sold to something called Value Click in 2000, but none of this is really the focus of our story, just something that's going on in the background. Okay.
So was this like a reliable revenue source for them, likely?
Not really. So that actually is about to come up. So it's 1999. Adam is making banner ads through his business for his father's hot water bottle company. I guess his dad owned a hot water bottle company. He's making
those. We've got the hottest water bottles. They've got the curves in all the right places. I'm sorry.
I have like 10 jokes I want to make here that I think I'm not going to. So he's working for his hot water bottle company, his dad's hot water bottle company. It's not paying well and it's wholly unexciting, right? Like just not fun to work on. Donna was working at a company called Speedy Click in the summer of 1999, but their finances are in rough shape and they're basically living off their credit cards.
Okay.
And then they have this idea that they've been mulling around for a while. What if they made a website where you could take care of virtual pets? For context, the idea of virtual pets was not new. This is a couple years after the Tamagotchi craze, so that had been mid-90s. Further, Pokemon had just started to hit the world around this time, and that was sort of growing in the collective consciousness. And if you want more on either of those, Tamagotchi or Pokemon, we've done episodes on them. I suggest you go give them a listen. But the idea is, make a website where you can take care of pets and make the game addicting enough that people would be willing to sit through ads to keep playing it. And also give you reasons to return to the site. So if you have to keep coming back to the site to take care of this pet, you're going to want to be there, you're going to want to sign on, and then you're exposed to more ads, and that would be like a potential revenue source.
This is already a new thing that we've rarely explored, that having this angle towards gaming, like we want to make something gaming related because we want to provide advertisement space, which is something we have not explored, like a Facebook game, which is cool.
Like a Facebook game. We're going to explore a lot of that today. Yeah. Quote, we thought virtual pets was a good idea because people would get attached and keep coming back. Okay.
Yeah.
In September of 1999, Adam started coding the early version of what they would call Neopets. Adam would do the back-end stuff, and Donna would do the graphic design. Their first office was in Guildford, England. Dachz, have you ever heard of Neopets?
I have heard
before we get into
Neopets. I have no visual about it. Like I can't imagine anything that it is. I know that it is something that people did and had and used, but I have no relation to it.
Okay, great. We're a blank slate, and that gives us something to work with. Great. Okay, so Donna said, quote, we wanted unique characters, something fantasy-based that could live in this weird, wonderful world. But they also spoke of how Donna didn't really have the art skills at that time to make anything kind of high-end. So some of the early designs were really goofy and full of local jokes and references. I'm going to show you some of those right now, okay? Here are some of the early designs for Neopets.
These look completely fine. and absolutely like things a 90s game would contain. So I'm fully fine with it. I like that one that is a picture of someone. I think it must be a movie reference that I don't get.
It's a British comedian. His name was Bruce Forsyth. It is literally just a JPEG of Bruce Forsyth. If you look in the bottom left, one of them is just a dude, a drawing of a guy that was apparently a guy Adam was friends with. And then if you look near the top left, there's a woman holding a ray gun. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's singer Macy Gray. Why? I don't know. I have no idea. Why is Macy Gray holding a ray gun? No one knows. But they were like, oh, this will be funny. Okay.
We have built a community of people that share art of about this level and really enjoy it. So I can totally see people like buying this and being into it. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. I really don't think it's that bad. No, yeah. So having just been in university themselves, their target demographic that they were looking for was older teens and university students. And they wanted it to be weird and just kind of have a darker humor. So part of a quote from him: "When we started Neopets, we didn't intend for it to be a kid's site. It had this dark tongue-in-cheek humor, many in-jokes and many references that younger kids wouldn't get." So the site launches in November of 1999, and already when it launched, it gave people a lot to do. You could adopt Neopets, of course, because that's the whole point. You could customize their gender, their color, their species. Then you would feed them. You could play mini games with them. You would earn Neopoints. Neopoints are the currency of Neopia. And you'd use that to buy food and other stuff. There's a map of places you could go with your pet. Do I have a picture of that ready to go? Oh, I do have something I want to show you. There's a map of places you could go with your pet. It had message boards where you could chat with other users. I kind of think of it as a very early stage browser MMO. Okay. I had forgotten that I'd found this. I dug this up. Here's some rejected designs.
An arachnid lizard looks nice. Like one of the plain world lizards. Scrunt.
Look at Scrunt.
Scrunt looks like something from Berserk.
I was going to say, Scrunt looks like a Dark Souls enemy, right?
Scrunt is something that you don't want to meet at Fiantaga, yeah.
Yes, exactly. I can see why Scrunt didn't make it into the game. For those who are new to this podcast, I will post all of the slides online, but just to describe it to those who don't check the slides, Scrunt is like a flesh critter that it's like beefy arms for legs. I don't know how else to describe it, with like maybe a sort of turtle-like head. I'm not really sure.
It looks a bit too eager.
It looks a bit too eager, yes. Well, anyway, so here's a picture of some of the early pictures of what the site looked like. Okay, places that you can go, things you can do, right? You might see that there's like the clothes shop or the toy shop, or, you could, put money, your Neopoints in the bank and, stuff like that. There's little places to click on and go and buy things.
As someone who did play browser MMOs in the 90s, just not this one, this definitely gives me browser MMO flashbacks. I really like this. This is really cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, yeah, so like also you can see down there in the bottom right, those little shops, you could have, like, you as a player, you could create your own shop. And people could come to your shop and buy items from you. So the game had its own internal economy, which we'll talk about a little bit.
I think what makes sense at this point is to basically explain the concept of a browser MMO to people that have not experienced what this is, because I think this was something that was around for 10 years and then kind of turned into things that are much different now. So I think a browser MMO is basically a website that you log into as you would log into any website. And then you would have any kind of interface that kind of emulated whatever world this was representing. Like in this place, it's like representing like a place where you take care of pets, and it's very intricate. So you have like as you can see here, there's like 20 different houses that you can enter, and here they are all drawn, and you could actually click on them or something. But I played something that was called Gladiators 2, where you basically played like gladiator in an arena. And this was fully like, there wasn't any pictures, but you just saw 1,000 little menus you could click on, and then you could do like 1,000 little things with your gladiator, and you had like things you could do. And it was always a timed thing. So you had like, I don't know if it was like this in this one, but the ones that I played, there was like once a day you can battle, and 2 times a day you can feed them, and 3 times a day you can look for loot. And this was like the entire game loop, and it was, I think it was super simple in its basic appearance, but then was overcomplicated in its intricacy. And this is something that was super prevalent during the 90s and early 2000s. And there was like a million different MMOs, browser MMOs you could play. And there was, you usually had like your in-group of friends that all played the same MMO, and then meet like a few other people via this MMO. And this was really this thing that defined our childhood a lot, which is really cool.
Yep. That's really, really good background for everybody. Yeah, Dachz is totally right. There were a bunch of games like this at the time, but you know, at least in the early 2000s, and we'll kind of get into some of that as well. So, okay, so Adam is doing all this coding, and Donna decides she's gonna her part of her job. She's doing art stuff, but she's also going to try and promote the site. And what she did is she went to a bunch of pet lover communities, and she kind of started repping it. They're like, "Why don't you try this game to take care of like online virtual pets?" So she posted to some pet news groups, and it starts to grow. And in a few days, they were getting 500 new people signing up each day. And then that number continued to rise, and then the traffic started doubling each week. And by Christmas of 1999, so by my count, less than 2 months later, they were getting 600,000 page views a day on their website. Donna. Quote, "The servers were totally capped. We were staying in front of computers all day, producing, drawing, coding, testing, not really eating." So a lot of eyes on their website. That's crazy, right? Just exploded.
But did their plan work out? Did they have advertisement space, and did they make money from that?
We're almost there.
Okay.
So yeah. So great question. So what I see from this time is that they seem to have been really overwhelmed, and they had banner ads to start, and they were making some money off the banner ads, but not the kind of money you would expect from having 600,000 page views a day. Right. And so they're like, we're putting a lot of time into this, and like, we're going to probably need some kind of outside investment here if we're going to continue operating at all. So Donna, as I mentioned, she was working this other job as well at a company called Speedy Click. And I've seen it referred, like this person referred to as like a mutual friend. I've also seen it referred to as Donna's boss. Whoever it was, this person, he's talking to a guy who was an investor at the company named Doug Doring. Here is Doug. And this person tells Doug about this British couple who were struggling to maintain a virtual pet site with a lot of traffic. And so in December, Doug gets introduced to Adam and Donna. So before we go on with Doug, we're going to talk about Doug's background because it's going to matter here soon. So Doug was born in California in 1957. His mother was a homemaker and his father worked at a car dealership. He was one of 5 children. And when he was young, one of his older brothers introduced him to something called Scientology. Doug got very into Scientology. And if you don't know what Scientology is, it's a pretty controversial religious organization that's banned in some countries.
Give you the German perspective, Scientology is a cult.
Mm-hmm.
In Germany, it was defined as a cult, and it does not have the religious freedom that it basically enjoys in the USA. And it destroys people's lives, and it invades your home and your families, and destroys people's lives. So stay away from Scientology.
Yeah, don't get mixed up with Scientology, kids. Also, to the Scientology legion of lawyers out there, I have no money, so you can't sue me. Okay.
And I live in Germany. You have no rights over here.
Anyways, he gets really into Scientology, and after college, he spent 4 years in Toledo working for the church in what he described as counseling and communications. He married his wife, Lori, in 1979, and then they had 5 children. So he is one of 5 children, then he has 5 children. 2 sets of identical twins, and also a son named Jason. A fun little fact about his son, Jason, just as an aside. Jason went on to become an actor, and he was in a bunch of stuff, including the show Veronica Mars, and he is the voice of the character Terra in the Kingdom Hearts series. But I don't play Kingdom Hearts, so I have no idea who that is. So, anyway. Little aside there. Okay, but back to Doug. In 1986, Doug founded a market research firm called The Doring Company and became its chairman and CEO, which would be weird if he was not those things, considering he's the guy who founded it and it has his last name on it. But they had a number of prominent clients, including Baskin-Robbins, Capitol Records, Kaiser, and a lot of work for automotive companies like Mercedes-Benz. His company grew quite a bit. It was his main gig for a while. Soon they were selling polling data from over 1 million online consumers to corporate customers. By 1995, his company was in the top 100 market research firms in the United States. So dude's like popping off.
Oh, nice.
Now, I had read a few allegations that maybe Doug was involved in some companies that were not always up to some good stuff. So I did read one where one company, like he was part of a company and then he left and they accused him of overinflating his sales figures, like for the company before he left. And then like by the time they would see those things, he had already cashed out all his stock. And I'm pretty sure they sued him. And then he was also involved in one of the largest pyramid schemes in history at that time. The internet provider Earthlink it was a whole big issue where there was like money going in, but it was this big pyramid scheme and most people lost like millions of dollars. But Doug somehow managed to make money off of his investment. And he claims that he left before like he found out what was going on behind the curtain, but like not a great look. Okay.
Well, when people that make money from pyramid schemes are the people at the top, which are not always people that are like the bad, like you can make some defense of people making money from pyramid schemes because they could have abused the system without understanding that it is kind of nefarious. Like you can make money from selling Tupperware, but it can still be a pyramid scheme, and you can still also not be a bad person.
My mother.
That is the terrible thing about pyramid schemes, that there is always success stories by people that are not evil.
Right. Like my mother, when she was a stay-at-home for a part of my childhood, when my brother was born, she sold stuff for this company called The Pampered Chef. And she would go and do these like shows of like kitchen gadgets and stuff. And like, admittedly, most of them were pretty good. But it wasn't until years later that I found out that it's like a pretty prominent pyramid scheme that tries to like bring in, mostly stay-at-home moms. So, but anyway, yes. Okay. So Doug gets involved in a couple of things, whether or not, I mean, he's involved in Scientology, he's involved in a couple of things, but
so I still would be skeptical about his endeavors if he fell for that. So he might fall for it. Anyway.
And so, but with all, so I'm giving you all this as background because you can think whatever you want to think about Doug. Yeah. I will say I've seen suggestions that he was like a generally really nice guy to be around. So I was reading a magazine from this time and it says, Doring at times can exude the charm of a sitcom dad. He has a full rosy face and a childlike grin that can slip into a robust laugh. So he's got this Scientology shit going on, but people generally seem to like him. Okay.
Scientologists are good at doing stuff like that. So, also, I'm not convinced by that as well. So he might just let's just let's just be skeptical about it.
We'll see where it goes. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. So Doug, big investor in Speedy Click. That's where he found out about Neopets. He meets Adam and Donna. And I think Doug is probably in his early 40s at this time by my guess. And when he sees the site, he's very impressed. At first, he pitches to them that maybe like what he would do is he would like heavily invest and then take over the site and then sell it to someone else. Like that was kind of like their original way that they were going to do that. But then that pitch kind of fell through to the proposed buyer. And so membership just kept spiking. And so it's like going up and up and up while they're having these discussions. And so he starts to get excited. And he says, quote, "We all saw the potential for this to be huge." So Adam and Donna decide that they're going to start working with Doug. Okay. And in January of 2020, Doug convinces a bunch of investors on his management team and his company to buy a majority share of Neopets. Okay. And the site was incorporated by Doug in February of 2000, becoming Neopets Incorporated, and began conducting business in April of 2000. Adam is given the role of web developer, and Donna is given the role of creative director. And Doug originally sees himself as like being in this passive role where he could kind of just like sit back and let things happen, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to sit back. I own this, but you two do what you're going to do. But then quickly he starts like realizing he wants a more active role. And he's like, I have this vision for this site. These are his exact words, where it would like expand past the website. Like this could be bigger than just being an online website. So, quote from him, "I realized we could have the best of both worlds. We could use the internet to create Neopets that would reach youth on a global scale and then be taken into the real world. It was a net to land strategy, the opposite of what everyone else was trying to do." And what he means by this was like a lot of existing brands were trying to take their brand and put it on the internet, which will come up a little later. He's like, we're trying to take an online brand and make real life shit with it. Okay, so the reverse. Okay. They start hiring people. They bring along a bunch of his previous company's market research experts. They also moved the Neopets headquarters to Southern California. And one of the first things that Doug did is he decides that he wants to clean up the site a bit and make it a bit more family friendly. So the site moved away from Donna's original drawings and became more sleek. The character designs get updated and nicer. And one thing Doug pushed for was like getting rid of anything that would violate copyright. Okay, so I'm going to show you some examples here. So the stuff on the left are just examples of how the designs of things moved along, okay, in the early days. So like you could see Bruce Forsyth there, right? Like first it was like a JPEG of Bruce Forsyth. Then they just, it was just a drawing of a guy that looked like Bruce Forsyth. Then it became a penguin with a bow tie. Then it became a cuter penguin with like a giant bow, right?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Macy Gray, apparently they just turned into a cow called a cow, KAU.
Oh.
I'm not sure. But do you see the designs on the right? Like it's a nice step up from the original drawings, right? A bit more detail. You kind of get some of what the style was that they were going for. It's cutesy, but sleek.
Like that, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So from an interview, I pulled this from an interview he did. He still has his bow tie, but that's about all that's similar, Doring says, admiring the art like a dad looking at his kids' drawings. He says Powell and Williams didn't care about using other people's intellectual property. "One of the first hires I made was a general counsel. I said, we need to own everything 100%. And if we can't own it, remove it." Which I think is honestly a really smart move, right?
Yes. Getting things onto a solid, like that is something we've just moved out of the Doom episodes, and they should have done stuff like that much of it.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely. And here's kind of a look at what the site looked like. This is like maybe around year 2 or 3 of this site existing. So like this wasn't like super early days, but finding like good pictures of those early days is kind of hard. But this is what you would see when you would log on to Neopets, right?
All of a sudden looks like a website targeted at children.
Yep. Okay, so you kind of get the feel for that. Around 6 months after they start the company, Adam and Donna, they start kind of wondering about some of the folks that are getting hired because, Doug is hiring on all these new people. And they start doing some online searches to find more stuff about them. And they start realizing that a lot of the new hires are connected to Scientology. Like a significant portion of the new hires were Scientologists, and 4 of the 6 members of the executive team were Scientologists. And once they realized this, a lot of stuff started making sense. The organization was structured by like a Scientology organization based off the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, and he claimed that this organization structure was 80 trillion years old. And it's called the org board. And it's a business model where you break your business down into different divisions that are all still kind of connected, which doesn't really sound bad, but there can be like a darker underlayer to this setup. So like, the communications division, for example, exists to sometimes spy on other employees and then like report that information to the executive. And often within these orgs, there are incentives to retaliate against anyone inside or outside of the organization who might get in the way of like goals, right? Which is usually making money. And they started seeing that like the interviewees were being asked really weird questions like, which of these straight lines seems friendlier to you?
Yeah.
And they're like, right? And like these obscure celebrities are coming into the office and getting tours and shit. Donna says, when we realized it was a bit of a shock, somewhat awkward moment when you realize you started the biggest entertainment site visited by millions of children and teens, but the upper management you just signed the company over to are part of some weird religion that is banned in some countries.
Yep. And you've probably just handed them a recruitment platform.
Yep. So funny you say that. Because for a time they're like, okay, look, like, let's just not say anything about this. Let's let Doug do his thing. But then Doug hires this woman to work at the company, and her entire job is just to try and introduce Scientology into Neopets. Like her whole plan was to put Scientology education on the site, and start like getting materials for children and users so that they could get into Scientology. And this is where Adam and Donna step in, and they're like, no way. Like, shut down. We won't sign off on this. Like, we will not have like religion on Neopets, especially this one, right? And so Doug like caves and decides not to bring this woman on, right? And then that's kind of like the end of them pushing like outwardly Scientology, but there's still a bunch of Scientologists at the company. Okay.
They likely plan to like play the patience game or something. I don't know. Let's try it again in 2 years. We still have time to do what they plan to do. I think Scientology plays the long game.
They do. Okay, so they're hiring all these people, the site's popping off, they start updating things, they have all these new hires. How is the site to make money? Well, they had previously been doing banner ads, but then they make the decision that they don't want to do banner ads. And they also kind of don't want to make people pay for special features. Okay, so no banner ads, no like premium version. Okay. The idea was that instead they would create something that they called immersive advertising. This is an advertisement that is built into the world, content and commercials blended together as one. This is a very early example of product placement within an online game.
Just like how you drink Monster Energy, there's branding all the time.
Yes. 100% just like that. You could virtually own Capri Sun, Lunchables, Oreos, Easy Squirt, green ketchup, Pokemon posters. You could go to the Disney theater and play Disney games. You could earn Neopoints by watching advertisements. You could take your Neopets into a skiing game, and an advertisement for Cinnamon Toast Crunch might appear in the background. You could play Pikachu's Pika-Seek at the Pokemon Factory, General Mills Cereal Adventure, Coca-Cola Bubble Pop, Applejack's Race to the Bowl. Like, the list just goes on and on and on. You could do fucking surveys. They would have kids do surveys.
This is like, not that I'm a friend of this, but this is really smart.
Oh, yeah. Right, exactly. And there were you could do market research surveys as a kid that would give you points, and they would ask you questions like, when was your last visit to Walmart? Or, are you aware that there is a new Power Rangers DVD?
Crazy.
They actually trademarked this. They actually trademarked the term immersive advertising.
I bet
more on this in a moment.
I bet
We'll circle back.
Doug as a person that thrives in market research was like really happy about this. Like this is probably his wet dream. I can ask endless amounts of children about like the consumer behavior. This is amazing. I'm gonna spend all my time on this.
And they'll willingly give it to you?
Just give it
like,
to me?
yes.
Yeah, this was
yes.
This was Doug's holy grail. Yeah, awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you look at the pictures here, so check out, remember I showed you that early, that like, all the different places you can go in Neopia Central. Look what's there now. The cereal adventure in the top right with all the cereal mascots, the Disney theater, the McDonald's shop, all right there, right in the middle of basically the fucking Neopets town square. Okay. Yep. The Pikachu's Pika Seek, it says search the factory by clicking on an object, blah, blah, blah. Remember, Pokemon the Movie 2000 is now available on video cassette and DVD, right? It's all right there.
And the Neo Lodge looks kind of like a Central recruitment center. No.
It actually kind of does, now that you mention that.
No,
it actually kind of does.
They didn't want to do that.
Anyway, in 2000, they add all kinds of stuff to the site. One of the big mechanics that they added was called pet pets, okay? Which were pets for your pets. Now, like, one weird thing about Neopets is, like, you are taking care of them, but they're, like, fully sentient beings. Like, they can speak, like, they can go out on adventures and do shit. So, like, why do they need you to take care of them? Unclear. So, like, they're like, oh, now your pet can have a pet of its own. They added new Neopets to adopt. There was a newspaper called the Neopian Times, which had editorials and cartoons and all this shit, all of it created by users.
It's like the goofy Pluto dissonance, if you remember.
Yes, it's exactly like that.
Goofy is a dog and he's like a person, but Pluto is also a dog and he's a pet and he works on all fours and Goofy cannot do that. Yeah. Okay.
Don't think too hard about it. Lots and lots of games on the site, like tons. They're similar in a lot of ways to things like Tetris and Minesweeper. There's various card games. They would have ongoing events at that time. Oh, here I have some pictures here we'll get to in a second. They'd have ongoing events, including one since the early 2000s, right? And what show was popular at the time was Survivor. So they made like a fake Survivor where they made like avatars of all of the different staffers who worked on Neopets. And then they called it Sacrificers. And each week someone would get sacrificed. And it was like, I would say it's like maybe a step above what we would think is okay for kids at this time, but it wasn't that bad.
I mean, just think of the shows that were like for children in the 90s. Like there was some dark shit going on in those, and I think they're fine to sacrifice a few people.
Yep. Yeah, kill them off. It was one of the mini events that kept you coming back. So now you're not only coming back to go like, play with your pets, but there's also something going on, right? It was exciting. And they introduced this antagonist named Dr. Sloth, and he's this alien dude, and he's like a bad guy. And so you wanted to keep coming back and see what would happen. And this year was also the year that they introduced something called the Battle Dome. And the Battle Dome was now you could take your Neopets into the Battle Dome and fight. And so now you're blending some of the aspects of an online MMO, but also the caretaking of a Tamagotchi, but also the fighting of Pokemon. It was becoming its own thing by taking these component pieces. And while the office at this time, by many accounts, just really seemed like an early 2000s tech office, right? Just a lot of people tapping away on their computers. There was still a lot of goofy stuff going on in the background. So, they'd go on trips to Vegas. They would hold gaming tournaments in the office. I know at one point there was a webcam that was on, and you as users could like watch whatever they were doing in the office, and they'd like stage weird shit in front of it. Adam, quote, "We used to have a lot of eating competitions. Probably not the best thing to do in the corporate environment, but nothing gets your coworkers more excited than watching somebody eat 12 McDonald's cheeseburgers in 10 minutes or drink a gallon of milk. The best one was where one of our Flash developers tried to eat a Subway sandwich that was the height of one of the artists. That did not end well." Okay. By May of 2001, the site had 10 million members.
Shit.
The executives at right?
Yeah.
10 million members. Like, in a little over a year, they went from, what if we made this goofy site that had JPEGs of a British comedian, to 10 million members.
That is insane.
The executives at Neopets claimed that in 2001, they were the most popular site on the internet. If you're going by the metric of the average time that a person spent on a site, like the stickiness is what they called it a lot. Around 80% of the site's users were under the age of 18, and it was considered to be one of the stickiest sites for children on the internet. A press release in 2001 said that early that year, the average user was spending 117 minutes on the site. Does that seem low to you? 117 minutes?
Let me think how much time is. It's hard to compare anything to what it is today because the internet has changed so hard. But if I think
right,
the average,
this is like weekly.
Averages is something that I think humans understand badly, but an average of 117 minutes seems, I think, like high to me. It's a lot because an average means that there's a ton of people that do much more than that. That
that's fair.
Also a big amount of people that also just visited go again. But I think 117, if because on how humans think about averages is that this is the amount of time people spend on there. But it is not.
Mm-hmm.
It is the average amount, and that is something different. So I don't think, now that I overthink it, it's not too bad. I think it's a big number.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, I think one thing that's really important is, we talk about a lot of these episodes, and when we say, this was just a different time, it really was. So, like, when you wanted to get on the internet, you had to go get on the internet, and like it would usually, take over your phone line, and like it was a whole fucking ordeal. And so like to spend, if we're saying the average person spending 2 hours a week on that, that's a pretty big draw for something you don't use as easily as you do now.
I don't know. Like, I think like flat rates for internet were around. Maybe we already had one in my house, but it was also still common to just pay by the kilobyte. So, like, you had to pay for your traffic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I never had anything other than a flat rate, but I got the internet when I was like 12, right? Something like that. So, okay. So let's go back to, let's talk again about this immersive advertising stuff, because as more people are getting on the site, groups are starting to notice. So Ralph Nader is maybe a name you've heard. He was part of like American politics for a while, and he briefly ran for president. But his big thing is that, he was involved in a lot of like consumer advocacy stuff and some other stuff. A bit too long to get into. But anyway, Ralph Nader's group called Commercial Alert in the early 2000s, he directed some criticism at the game around this time and basically put out for consumers like, hey, this is actually just full of ads, and children might not realize that they're being sold a product. This is different than like watching a commercial. And so here's a quote from an article. Quote, "It's clearly an effort to plant brand names in the minds of children," says James McNeil, professor emeritus of marketing at Texas A&M University and author of The Kids Market, Myths and Realities. It is not until around 8 years old that they can mentally defend against a persuasive sales message if they wish to. End quote. Note, a few years later, Neopets would note that 500,000 users on their site were under the age of 8. Okay, so like, not the biggest demographic, but there were very small children using the site.
500,000 children were being influenced by something that was disguising itself as not advertisement, even though it was. But I think that's a concern.
Yep. The editor-in-chief of the advertising watchdog magazine Adbusters wrote, quote, "They're encouraging kids to spend hours in front of the screen and at the same time recruiting them into consumer culture. It's the most insidious mind fuck ever."
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I totally agree. Doug talked about this in a later interview. Do you something you want to say first?
Yeah, but I also think that consumer awareness groups want point these things out, but I think that it's hard to say generalized things like this, but I think the generalized population often doesn't understand where the problem is, and like that conditioning your children into brands is something that can lead to problems later on that are very, very big. Like if they have this intrinsic motivation to only eat McDonald's, that will definitely fuck up their health. Yeah. And so I think that the laws that, at least I know that in Germany there's very strict laws about this to protect children from advertisement. I don't think they're strict enough, but I think that the fights that these consumer rights groups have been fighting are very important. They are underappreciated.
I completely agree with you. Yeah. So Doug got asked about this, and so did Donna, and I'll kind of tell you what both of them said. Here's one. Doring turns his palms to the ceiling and shrugs. You're never going to please everybody, he says. He insists there's nothing subliminal at work and that no one is forcing kids to play the ad-driven games. This wasn't...
Nobody's forcing anyone to do anything. They just want to do it.
Yep. This wasn't done like, oh, let's make this healthy. We just put all kinds of things on the site and users will migrate toward things that interest them.
It's the same argument that Facebook is giving today. It's like, people want to do this. We are not forcing anyone to do anything. There is no algorithm. It's just what people want to do.
Yep.
Which is correct.
Now, Donna...
But you still got to protect the people from like the bad habits. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Donna did say, in an interview, and this is not her exact words, just to be clear, but, her kind of assessment was like, how is this any different than you're a kid and you're watching TV and then suddenly the commercials come on and they're like blasting, commercials for toys at you in the midst of your episode of, I don't know, fucking Power Rangers or whatever. And I think in some ways I kind of agree with that assessment, but in other ways I don't, because I feel like this was much more insidious. This was like integrated into the site. Like if a commercial comes on, the commercials are on, right? But this was like part of the site experience was going after these brands. So regardless, with all this going on in the background, the truth of the matter is that it was working. Like this advertising was working. So Doug said in an interview in 2002 that market research showed that preference for a specific soft drink that had been advertised on the site, he didn't say which one, preference for that soft drink grew by 4% after they introduced it to the site. And you may go, well, 4%, that's not a lot. But we're talking about millions and millions of people who buy a product, okay? Yeah. And there was a Harvard Business School paper that they got some info from some children and they talked to some kids. And like one kid literally said in the paper, when I saw Capri Sun on the site, I had my mom go buy some so that I could drink it with my pet. So like right there, right, it tells you, they're getting what they want out of it. So
it's also really tough to discuss these things because it's like, how much do we want to interfere? How a society self-controls about these things? It's so difficult. Like, how do we do we get into crafting how we as a society work by making rules that forbid something like this? Or is this condescending? Is this telling people how they have to live life? Like, this is, I understand this argument about this, but I don't believe people like Doring that they are making honest arguments. I don't think that they argue in good, how's it called, in
good faith.
In good faith. I don't think that they are arguing.
Yeah.
And that's why I find even starting these arguments with people that defend stuff like this always cynical, because I feel like I'm talking to someone that is just is just hiding behind pseudo arguments for something that they don't even believe, and they just want to make money.
Yeah. And I think, and we don't have to spend too long on this because I have lots of weird things to get into here, but I think if we go, should we be protecting people from misinformation? Should we be, protecting people from advertising? Those are questions that you and I can have as adults. But when you get into small children who can't differentiate, I think there's like sort of a different classification of should we be advertising to them at all? And, remember when I was in undergrad having a long discussion with one of my sociology professors about, should we even be advertising to children? Is it moral to advertise to a child?
Should we advertise at all?
And so
yeah.
True that. I fucking hate billboards. Can I say I hate billboards? You're driving on the road and you're looking at the most beautiful shit ever, and then suddenly there's like a fucking advertisement for an insurance agency like up on the mountain, and it's like I feel like it ruins it. I feel like it ruins the vibe. But anyway. Okay, so you got all this immersive advertising stuff going on. The site's kind of popping off. And I will say that the Scientology stuff didn't fully go away. It loomed in the background. Like, new employees were coming in and they were still getting like given interview materials that said copyright L. Ron Hubbard at the bottom. They were still using some Scientology recruiting stuff. Adam said, quote, "I think there was somewhat of a them versus us feel to The Office." Which I get, right? And so I read some note, this is unsubstantiated. I could not substantiate this, but there were rumors going around in the early 2000s that if you worked there, it was hard to get promoted if you weren't a Scientologist or if you didn't openly convert to Scientology. And there were some suggestions that artists were kind of churning in and out, lasting only maybe about 6 months if you weren't into Scientology. So that's kind of still going on, but they're not overtly pushing it on the front end of things. Okay. By the end of 2001, the site had 21 million users and the company had 65 employees. They became profitable rather quickly. They had big brands working with them, including Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Kraft, and a marketing agreement with the company Viacom. While a lot of sites were struggling in the
early... If you guys don't know, Kraft is one of the biggest food producers in the whole world. So having Kraft on your site to do anything is really good.
Absolutely. Yep. And while a lot of sites were struggling in the early 2000s, Doug says that they were on track to double their advertising sales in a year. And note that Neopets did very little advertising of their own. This is just from mostly relying on word of mouth and an in-game referral program. In 2002, Neopets merch starts appearing in various places. Here is some of it. There were plushies, there was jewelry, notebooks, fun little things like that. But 2003 saw the release of the Neopets magazine, which included game guides, stories, comics, all kinds of other stuff. And there were talking plushies that hit the market. I'm going to send this to you because there's a commercial for one.
Should I watch the commercial?
You should watch the commercial. Tell me what you think.
Okay, it gives me Furby vibes. Just like they can talk and they can say their name and they can recognize each other, which is kind of cool. And yeah, it's plushies that say catchphrases.
Yep. But that's the first commercial I could find. That's the first commercial that I could find at that point. So like Neopets is like starting to break containment here. Okay. So it's not just on the internet anymore. It's like, it's getting out there. And so things
SCP that has to kind of be contained again.
Things start taking off even further that year with the creation of the Neopets trading card game, which Adam and Donna had a hand in creating. It was produced by Wizards of the Coast. Apparently, Adam had a big hand in like putting together the mechanics of it.
These guys jump at any possibility to print money. Yes, of course.
Oh, they sure can. It was a collectible card game where you made 2 decks of cards. One was a small one that had Neopets in it and a larger deck of 40 cards. And then you and your pets would compete against your opponent's pets in various arenas. And if you won, you could like, you don't have to get into the mechanics, but there were 9 expansions to this by my count. And the game saw updates all the way up until 2006. So it went on a little longer than I would have expected from a flash in the pan trading card game about Neopets. And then this was also the first tabletop game they made that year, a board game called Adventures in Neopia. In 2004, Neopets started adding banner ads to the site. And what if you don't want to watch the ads, Dachz? Well, you can
buy a subscription.
Yes, the 2 things they said they wouldn't do. And the community was highly displeased by this because since the inception of the site, this is something that they said that they would never do. But they were told, hey, listen, This is necessary to keep the site free. It has grown to a point that if we're going to keep it free, it either has to be one of these two things, right? So like, suck it up, Buttercup.
Oh, they also added
Neopets
can read like this. You get additional features, and there's like a sketch card thing that you get. Like they added like sketch cards that you could get and then sketch and get like maybe rewards for it. So they added gambling to it. So make it more advertisement. This is really good. Okay, nice. Let's let children gamble. I mean, the whole children gambling discussion has been something that's been going on for until this day. It's still happening. It was like a few big legal decisions a few years ago.
You're really good at predicting the next thing I'm about to talk about. So sort of in that vein, so Neopets had trended a little older, okay, like just in the children, it was like older, young teens and older teens, okay, but there weren't a ton of small children on the site. Neopets then got included in a McDonald's Happy Meal promotion in 2004, and people went a little nuts for it because it brought in a large number of new players, right? So you get this Happy Meal, and, Dachz can see the pictures here, but you got these little plushies, and then it also came with a card for the trading card game, and then it also came with a code that you can take online, and then you can get extra bonuses in Neopets, and then that brought in this influx of smaller children, okay?
I just want to say that the design of the Neopets by this stage is so perfect that it's really amazing how this brand developed. This is really great.
Yes, you could see the style and you can look at something and go, that's a Neopet. Yep. And when people got to the site, there was truly a massive amount of stuff to do comparatively at that time. The events are ongoing, and there's not just one event, there's several events. There's player housing that you can decorate. You can customize your Neopets profile page using HTML, and they had HTML tutorials to show you how to edit a page. There was an underlying economy that went deep with a stock market that was based on how much people were buying from NPCs shops in the game, auctions, player run auctions that you could bid on. Like I said, you could create your own shop and sell shit. There's games everywhere. It was like kind of nuts. But then the McDonald's Happy Meal promotion hits Australia, and suddenly some negative attention starts getting picked up because, as you mentioned, there were sure a lot of games on that site that involved gambling. And a show called Today Tonight, I don't know anything about this except that I think it ran up until the late, maybe 2019 is when it ended. Today Tonight, they got a call from a concerned parent after her 9-year-old joined Neopets and she found him playing online poker. And when the backlash hit, so then they this is a big thing, right? 9-year-olds are playing fucking gambling games on the internet. Then they did a bunch of these, like Neopets is indoctrinating your children into all this gambling and shit. So McDonald's is like, oh fuck, Neopets, this is bad for us too, because now it's like it's our promotion, so you need to ban Australians from playing any gambling games. And so what they did is they did that initially, and then what they did is they settled on you couldn't play any games of chance on the site if you were under 13. Okay, so like no gambling games if you're under 13. And I thought that was kind of a fine background.
Why under 13? Why not? Okay,
because well, okay, so I think, do not quote me on this, but I think that the laws that regulate like the collection of data and certain things on the internet are for children who are under the age of 13.
This is something. Stuff like this triggers me immensely because companies will never make a decision that is morally right. They will always make a decision that just legally protects their finances. And so this is the reason why you need to regulate the free market, because a company has no moral conscience whatsoever. They just do they will always do the bare minimum of what they will have to do. And I cannot stand companies just saying, we've just done the bare minimum. This is all that is morally expected of us. Sorry, I'm stopping my rant right now. This is terrible.
You don't have to be sorry. I'm with you. Now, Doug got called to comment on this, and he said that it's not that they were trying to get kids addicted to gambling. He saw the site as being an economy simulator where children could learn about economics.
Dude, if you want to interfere
classic
with
CEO
the free
speech.
market, you're just a communist. So.
No, like, look, some small credit where it is due.
Yeah.
I will say that Neopets broadly, compared to the rest of the internet at the time, was a relatively safe space for children to participate in these things. Like, I'm not saying it was great, but like, you know, there was moderation, there was inbuilt chat filters. You know, if you did anything that cheated or scammed or caused issues with others, you got banned, right? Like, it was a whole, you know, there was like this whole background going on, but still the fundamentals were there of like,
it's slightly as though in comparison to what the rest of the internet offered to children. I remember that the internet of that time traumatized me deeply. So I can support your defense of it. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm defending it here. Like, I'm just saying there was safeguards and it was a relatively safe space compared to the rest of the internet at the time, but like still probably not good. Sure was.
Yeah.
Okay, so we hit 2005, and 2005 is a pretty important year for Neopets. Let's just talk about some of the numbers of how big it had gotten. Here's a snippet from an article. Quote, Neopets has a staggering 25 million members worldwide. It has been translated into 10 languages and gets more than 2.2 billion page views a month. These dedicated Neopians spend an average of 6 hours and 15 minutes per month on the site. That makes Neopets the second stickiest site on the internet, ahead of Yahoo, MSN, AOL, and eBay, according to Media Metrics. What's more, its demographics are the stuff of marketers' dreams. 4 out of 5 Neopians are under the age of 18, and 2 out of 5 are under the age of 13.
Awesome.
I also saw a different estimate that some internal estimates. I don't know that I necessarily believe this, but there were some internal estimates from like a person who did some contracting work who claimed that it was actually closer to 35 million people and that they had something like 11 million unique IP addresses a month. But like whatever it was, an insane number of internet traffic for the time.
All my bickering aside, this is what they set out to do. And they did the best. They couldn't have done it any better. This is amazing. So just from a inception of plan to actual completing the plan kind of perspective, this is brilliant.
Oh, it's crazy. And I have some other notes here too, just about the company at the time. They had 110 staffers in Los Angeles and 20 in Singapore. Why Singapore? Neopets estimated that their audience in Singapore was over 1 million people, and Singapore's population was just a little over 4 million people at that time. So like close to a fourth of every person in Singapore was playing Neopets, right?
Children in Singapore were playing Neopets, yes. Also.
Probably. They didn't disclose their earnings, but you know they were doing pretty well by some accounts, and 60% of their profits were coming from this immersive advertising of the embedded ads. As Harvard professor Tom Eisenman said in a 2005 interview, quote, "It's astonishingly viral. I suppose there are websites targeted at children and teenagers with the same reach, but nothing comes close to Neopets in terms of time spent." And then the big thing this year was that Doug, here's Doug on the left. It's a picture of Doug where he's like posing in front of it's like a rendition of a famous, like an Andy Warhol painting, but it's of a Neopet. Yeah. Doug brokered a deal to sell Neopets to the company Viacom for $160 million. Viacom owned a lot of things at this time, and the big ones you would know would be the TV networks MTV and Nickelodeon.
I see.
Yeah, so they're like, all right, time for us to buy this up. In interviews, it was mentioned that there were deals in the works for all kinds of merch, including a PlayStation 2 game and a 3-movie agreement with Warner Brothers. 3 movies were going to be made by Warner Brothers. Doug spoke about how he was so optimistic about the future of the brand that maybe there would even be a 4th movie once Warner Brothers is finished. And then there was also talks to do like a Nickelodeon TV show.
Now the question is, the big question is, why is Neopets nowhere to be seen? What is going to happen the next few paragraphs that you tell me that completely destroy this brand? And I'm super excited to get it. I want to know how Doug burns this down, or how, for some reason, society shifts and he didn't see it coming, or I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to be children? Are they going to find out that children are being groomed on the website or something? Is it something like this? I'm very excited. Tell me.
You'll see. This is a slower burn than you think it is. But
it feels like I'm on the edge and it's going to happen anytime.
No, there will be some moments like that. Okay. So after taking over, Viacom announces that, okay, what's their plan for the site? More advertising, more banner ads on the site. You've got a big fucking audience. Time to make some money off of them. And after the sale, Doug leaves the company. He leaves Neopets because he sold it to Viacom. He's no longer needed.
That was his plan.
And interestingly, so did Adam and Donna. So here's some stuff from Adam and Donna. Adam, I've been reading some comments lately, and people seem to think that Donna and myself sold out and left to the detriment of the site. It really wasn't that way. We hadn't been happy there since 2004 for a variety of reasons. We were pushing for new content, but it seemed that all our efforts accomplished were more ads, more sponsor games, and more corporations taking over Neopia Central. The management did what was right for the company, but not for the site, in my opinion. We had absolutely no say in the sale of the company at all. We just took the opportunity to move on with our lives because we hadn't really done anything constructive for Neopets in about 18 months at that point. It was quite sad, really.
Also, and then, it felt good to get away from the cult, so I guess.
Yeah. One more quote. Obviously, we both still have some sort of attachment to the property, and we're both the first to point out any mistakes or things we don't think are up to standard. I guess that comes with working on Neopets for five or so years. I think they're doing fine. There's still too much advertising, but I don't think that's avoidable now. The Flash games are really improving in quality. That's the end of that quote there. So he's kind of like, look, we weren't happy there. This was just all advertising. They made a bunch of money off of it, but like we couldn't do what we wanted, so we decided to leave. So Adam and Donna, they leave Viacom some guidelines for content, their thoughts on how to manage the site. The two of them leave for Canada, where they stay for a couple of months, and then they move back to the United Kingdom. Okay, so we've clean slate of all of our original folks here. Poof, gone. Okay. But Neopets continues onward with the release of a PS2 game. Releasing at the end of the year came the first Neopets video game to break out from the web, a game on the PlayStation 2 called Neopets The Darkest Fairy. Adam had written the story for the game involving an evil fairy breaking free from her ancient prison and trying to conquer Neopia. You could play as two different characters that had different abilities. From what I read, the game got okay, but kind of mixed reviews. It had decent graphics and music and was kind of faithful to the website, like the style of the website, but there were technical issues, weird pacing, not a lot of depth. IGN says, simple, clean, straightforward, and bland, Neopets is a baked potato without fixings, a bed without blankets, a cake without frosting, or a chair without cushions. It's a minimalist's action adventure. Dude, right? So they didn't seem to like it. 2006 also brought the release of Neopets Mobile, which you can see there on the left, which you can only access if you subscribe to a T-Mobile exclusive service where you could visit an exclusive island. This year saw the release of another video game, Neopets Pet Adventures, The Wand of Wishing for the PSP. You played as an anthropomorphic pet in a top-down, what I would describe as maybe a Gauntlet Legends style game. It had a wireless feature where people with PSPs could play against each other, and I think they could cooperate. It got okay reviews. And the movies, remember the movies that got promised? They never materialized. But there was still a ton of merch flying around, including a cereal called Neopets Island Berry Crunch, which you could see there on the right. I think that might be the first cereal based on a website, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, it says like new Neopets Island Berry Crunch, and it has a trading card inside. Ooh. So 2007 also brought changes to the game that users had wanted for a while. The ability to customize your pet to new designs. The pets all had an overhaul. To do so, you had to convert them. Okay, so you had to convert them to the new style of pet.
Did you have to convert them to Scientology? No, I'm sorry. No, stop. Yeah, a new style.
You got to check your pet's thetan levels, okay? Like, so you could convert your pets to this new style. Now, we'll come back to this a little later because unconverted pets became a rarity and an underground market for trading them started to become a thing. Okay? Put a pin in that. In June, of 2007, Nickelodeon started showing short animations and commercials on Nickelodeon, which then drove a bunch of traffic to the site. But there were some reports that maybe they were starting to lose chunks of their user base. Like they were starting to, were starting to decline a bit. And then 2007 began the start of Neocash. What's Neocash, Dachz? Well, it's a premium currency for microtransactions where you could spend real-life money that you could use to buy items. Neocash cards went... Sure does. They went on sale in retail stores and you could get your Neocash. And if you bought the $25 Neocash point, because you could buy 10, 15, or 25. If you bought the $25 one, well, you got a bonus Neocash. So it's really a good deal if you get those. Yeah.
It's basically a waste of money to buy smaller ones.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Neocash. And year after year, Neopets was still considered to be the stickiest site on the internet. So where did Adam and Donna go? Well, they haven't totally left our story yet. In 2007, Adam and Donna founded a studio called Meteor Games. They planned to make a bunch of games that would have different MMO elements. So Donna's in the middle, Adam's on the right. A guy on the left is somebody they hired in the company later. He's not important to our story, but this is the two of them. They planned to make a bunch of games, like I said, that would have some MMO elements, and they took a demo of a game called Twin Skies to PAX in 2008, and it was pretty well received. It had a kind of stylized look, and a lot of the early play seemed positive, like people seemed interested in it, but not long after, the company had to scale back due to budget issues, and then they eventually canceled that game due to a large number of layoffs. And then they started working on some other games, and they started pivoting toward Facebook games, which you mentioned earlier. They had several of those from what I could tell, and most of them focused on building things, like building an island or a kingdom or a farm. Their biggest one was called Island Paradise, and that dropped in 2009. Most of the games really just seem to be kind of like, imagine the typical Facebook game at the time, from that era, but maybe just like with an additional layer of complexity. Neopets was continuing to be updated, but the user base, as I said, had started to drop off, as did the frequency of updates. The novelty of customizing your pet started to feel less interesting when the internet had grown and expanded. Like, there were all these alternatives now. However, in 2011, the Neopets website announced that they had logged 1 trillion page views since the website had been created.
That is so...
Which is a lot.
That doesn't say.
Yep. In June of 2011, Neopets... Oh, I missed something here that isn't in my notes, but there was a DS game that came out. There was a game for the Nintendo DS that was like a Neopets game. I think it also released for PC, and it did okay, is just the short of it. But in June 2011, Neopets announced that they were releasing a Facebook game called Treasure Keepers. And not only that, the original creators, Adam and Donna, were coming back, and they were partnering to make the game through Meteor Games. And there would be a beta testing phase for Neopets premium subscribers, and then a release in August, and this is Treasure Keepers. It was a Facebook game. So the gameplay loop is you pick one of these two anthropomorphic Neopet critters, and you go on adventures, and you get items, which you then display in a shop. And then those items get bought by NPCs or Facebook friends who would come and visit your shop. And as you leveled up, various characters would come to your store with special offers, like this sultry night lady up there in the top right. And you'd get these little quest chains as part of like a story. And while it was like mostly a standalone game, you could do tasks within the game that would give you like codes to use for items on the site, because everything's all connected, right? The game peaked at 300,000 monthly users and 35,000 daily users in September. So like immediately it starts popping off. But then it starts declining quite quickly. In November, in response to dwindling numbers, as well as criticisms and rumors from players regarding the really slow updates, Meteor Games puts out a statement that essentially says, not to worry, the game is still in development, there's no plans to close the game down anytime soon. And then on December 12th, only less than a month later, Meteor Games announced that Treasure Keepers would be closing down in just under 2 days, and everybody should get any unclaimed shit off of it that they wanted immediately. Why such a short timeline? Well, it turns out that Meteor Games was internally falling apart, and sources from inside the company said that 90% of their staff got cut. They quickly tried to find somebody to buy the company and got no takers. They went bankrupt, and then people started suing them in court because they owed shit tons of money. So, not good.
Not great. Okay.
No.
So that fell apart. Okay. They should have stayed away from Neopets, I guess.
From what I can tell, and this is not, I couldn't corroborate this, but I've seen it said around the internet that Adam has said, that Adam blames Treasure Keepers for being the death of Meteor Games for whatever reason. Okay. I did see some later interviews with Donna where she kind of complained that their hosting provider and investors who had helped them with Island Paradise, their other big game, they forced them to shut it down even though they were making a profit on it. And so it just really seemed like bad feelings all around. So that's it for Adam and Donna. We will come back to them at the end. There is another good story about them, but that's kind of the one time they intersect here. Otherwise,
might have just been something that was out of their control.
Yeah.
What? So that it was just unlucky. Who knows?
Yeah. For the next couple of years, Neopets keeps releasing content, but at a slower pace. And then, in 2014, Viacom decides time to sell the company, and they sell it to a company called Jumpstart Games for an undisclosed amount of money. If you don't know Jumpstart Games, their whole thing was making educational games for children. So, seems like a fine buy, right? So Jumpstart said they wanted it. Here's a bit from an article on why. Quote, Jumpstart CEO David Lord said one of the reasons Jumpstart was drawn to Neopets was because of its older audience. Something about Neopets has always attracted an older audience, and especially now, 17 years after its beginning, with so many players who have grown up on the site are still there. So if you're an adult who still plays Neopets, you are far from alone. He may have given this a couple years down the line, but point is that that's why they wanted it. Because it was who was on it, not a bunch of new children at this point. We're in the mid 2010s at this point. It's mostly just longtime users.
People that grew up.
Yep. So it's less of a younger crowd these days and more older folks sticking around. And it was a rocky sale. There were massive data breaches at the time where, by some estimates, 70 million accounts got compromised. And when they took over, they shut down a bunch of interactive parts of the site that people liked. My guess is that they didn't want to pay to maintain them. That same year, they released a mobile game. It was like a matching game called Ghoul Catchers that was for mobile phones. My guess is that they probably either whipped this up quickly or it had already been in production when they bought it. And then, so accounts getting compromised, but then in 2015, all of the site's chat filters went down for a couple of days, and Neopets was flooded with the true horrors of the internet. I pulled some pictures I could grab from this time of some of my favorite things that I saw. These are the less X-rated ones.
Seinfeld RP, list of dads who make other dads eat bugs. Guys,
list of dads who make
my Lord and Savior. What if we are the Neopets? How do I level up my official meninism board? TFYW, your king is king shaming. Daddy dom Skype chat.
If you read under that too, it says current topic: King of the Hill gifted mutant roleplay thread.
The name Destroyer of Things is available. Awesome.
Yep. So things are going.
I was expecting that Neopets was going to more lean into the neo-Nazi region, but that's okay.
I will say I only pulled the stuff that was like
acceptable. Yeah.
Acceptable.
I can imagine that this has gone even far worse regions.
Oh yeah. List of dads who make other dads eat bugs is just such I love it. But anyway, so that goes down. So what the fuck's going on with the site? So an article in Kotaku in 2016 was written by a woman named Amanda Yo, who went back to the site after having not touched it for 15 years. She was largely displeased with the amount of ads on the site and how it felt like a ghost town to her. She brought attention to the fact that Jumpstart, the company Jumpstart, who had bought Neopets, as well as Mattel, Viacom, and Hasbro, had to pay $835,000 as part of a court case in New York, involving how these companies had allowed vendors to track the online activity of children under 13 and also collect their personal information. So not a good look. So she writes this article, and to get ahead of it, Jumpstart contacts her and says, do you want to do an interview with their CEO, David Lord? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So she wrote a follow-up article titled Neopets is Rotting Away that did not paint a good picture of the direction of the site. The mobile game was really the only thing that the brand had done of note in recent years, and the CEO's responses to her seemed bland, broad, and without any real direction. Despite all this, David Lord claimed that the site had 100,000 active daily users. Not as high as the days of old, but still a lot of people.
I can imagine the 100,000 people that use this. So I don't not believe him.
Yeah. I just mean, it's not that I don't believe him. It's just, it's still cruising along, you know? And as I was working through some of the year-by-year history on some of the fan sites, like they would catalog like what happened in every month of each year. This is the time period when I started seeing months that said nothing noteworthy occurred during this month. So like not a lot happening. It's like, right. In July of 2017, Jumpstart was purchased by a Chinese company called NetDragon, which designs and operates MMOs. There was excitement over this acquisition because the company started developing in-universe plots for the first time again in years. So everybody's excited, okay? Finally, we're getting new shit in Neopets. The time has fucking come, Dachz. So in 2018, they announced a new game, Neopets Crypto Quest.
What?
This was this was roughly 3 years before NFTs and other crypto bullshit broke into the mainstream. The idea was this: you would take real life money and you would buy NFT cards. You could buy them with cash or crypto, depending on your preferred method of purchasing shit. You could then scratch the cards and turn them in for special prizes on the site, or you could use them to complete quests. You could then auction off cards to other people for cryptocurrency. So there was an internal crypto market of buying and selling these cards. But once a card was both scratched and used for a quest, it was completely worthless, and you couldn't give them to anybody, and you couldn't use them again. You were just stuck with them.
How long did it take until the IRS got involved?
Well, I do know that the site for CryptoQuest went down the following year, and since all of the metadata for the cards now points to a website that no longer exists, the images on the cards can no longer be rendered, and people can't access them at all. So, yay, crypto.
Yeah.
2019 saw the release of an app called Legends and Letters, which I think was supposed to be kind of like a Scrabbly type thing, but that only lasted for about a year, and that shut down. And they were like, hey, I know all this shit's shutting down, but don't worry, we got this app. It's called Neopets Island Builders. It's coming out, and it's going to be great. More on that in a minute. It's 2020, and Neopets is still getting 3.4 million views a month, which sounds like a lot, but again, still low compared to the height of popularity. And then they announce an animated Neopets TV show, just like they said they would do. And spoiler alert, Dachz, it didn't fucking happen. So no movies, no TV show. The games are all fucking falling apart. And there was also this other little issue looming. And that was Adobe Flash. See, the entire website had basically been built with Flash, and Flash was ending in 2020. And they announced in 2014 that Flash was going to end, and that they gave people 6 years to get this ready. And they weren't ready. So the team had to very quickly make choices to prioritize what to transition away, picking the most popular features. And when Flash ended, a lot of the site stopped working. The team also said, hey, we know it's 2020 and you guys like playing things on your phones. So we're going to make a Neopets mobile app for the first time. And then they were like, maybe we'll just try and make this more phone friendly then. And then they ditched that whole idea. I read an interview with a woman who worked at the company at the time. She's like one of the higher ups. And she said that apparently she wanted to physically print out. They had made a list of every single thing that they would need to do to update the site to be mobile friendly. Because it started in 1999, right? It's like working off this fucking spaghetti code. So she wanted to physically print out a physical list of everything they needed to do to update to mobile. And when she printed it out, it was over 200 pages. So yeah, it's no fucking wonder.
It would have likely been easier to just rebuild it from scratch.
Yep, I agree. So there had been a pretty serious lull in site content for years. Multiple things broken, all these projects getting announced and then postponed. What is any good company to do in this situation, Dachz? It's 2021. What's coming around? More fucking NFTs. It's time for the Neopets metaverse. And in September of 2021, they said, we are proud to announce the coming launch of the Neopets metaverse NFTs, a collection of 20,500 algorithmically generated lovable and cute Neopets NFTs living on the Solana blockchain. Dachz, it was just so easy. You just had to buy an NFT, and then you could be part of a new, modernized remake of Neopets in 3D. And the first day that it was announced, people on Twitter asked the official Neopets account, is this real? And the official Neopets account told them, no, whatever this is, it is clearly a scam. Ignore it. Because my guess is that the parent company decided to do this and had licensed out the IP, and that the people working on Neopets day-to-day didn't know. The fan sites go into fucking full revolt.
Oh, shit.
In September... It's bad. It's bad. In November of 2021, the Neopets Metaverse launches, so you can buy yourself an NFT, and they release 10,000 Neopets Metaverse collection boxes. You could purchase a box using Solana cryptocurrency, and you would redeem your box for a randomly generated Neopets NFT. The average sale price for one of these boxes to get a Neopets NFT was $460 at that time. Each NFT is randomly generated. It has random colors, clothes, and accessories. Here are examples. They also wanted to add in another variation, moods. See, Neopets can really only have 3 moods on the site: happy, sad, and neutral. But for whatever reason, they didn't make a lot of neutral NFTs. So by my numbers, a little under half of the NFTs that people got were either sad or crying Neopets. So you would pay $460 to get a randomly generated bawling Neopet. Why?
Just
why?
Just ugly crying because they have been sold in slavery for the rest of their life.
Only 4,233 boxes were purchased of the 10,000. But even still, this generated almost $2 million in revenue for the Neopets metaverse. And those who purchased the NFTs got early access to see the Neopets metaverse. And I watched some videos, and some people who saw the alpha were kind of like, this looks like a bad PS2 game. So we got fucking Neopets NFTs are crying, right? And the companies they're being bought out 1 million times. And what's going on through all this? Do you remember that whole thing where you had to like convert a pet from the old stuff to new stuff? Well, it turns out that this had developed into an underground Neopet black market, and people were hacking accounts using some of the leaked data or other methods. They would go into old accounts and they would get a hold of the unconverted pets, and they would trade them through chains with each other, sometimes selling for thousands of real life dollars on the internet. So there's this whole fucking unconverted pet black market that is going on at this time.
Why? What? Dude, like, our hands, like, oh man, like 100,000, like we climbed off the trees. And we turned into these hairless monkeys that were really good at running. And and now we trade these digital representations of plushy fetish toys that look like they've been crying all night. I don't know what happened, dude. What happened?
Neopets NFTs are where humanity finally went wrong. That's it. Like, of all of our trials and tribulations, this is the...
Like, if you spend 2 months payment, I don't know. Do I sound like an old person? Is this... Do I just... Oh, no. Who are these people?
Dachz looks broken. He looks just broken.
I don't know. I've seen terrible things in my life, but this is, for some reason, this touches me at a deep level.
Oh, I'm fucking dying. But we're not done yet, Dachz.
Please don't. This has been getting
in
worse
June of
than I could have expected.
Okay, maybe there's a ray of hope. Maybe there's a little ray of hope for Neopets.
There's not that many years left until we reach the present.
In June of 2023,
and dude, I'm gonna tell you, the present is not fun. So.
No, it's pretty shit. It's pretty shit.
Okay.
In June of 2023, I can't fucking dying. It was announced that Jumpstart was going to be closing their doors and shutting down. See ya, Jumpstart. I don't know, maybe you shouldn't have gambled so much on fucking cryptocurrency, losers. But NetDragon, who owned Jumpstart, right? They're like, oh, what do we do with this IP now? So in July of 2023, it was announced that Neopets would be selling from NetDragon to a guy named Dominic Law. Who the fuck is Dominic Law? Well, turns out Dominic Law is a millennial who grew up playing Neopets in the early days and used it as a way to communicate with his friends in other countries that he couldn't like call back when that was like crazy to do. He was really passionate about the game, and he had worked at NetDragon, and he had been the lead on Neopets Metaverse. Okay. Like the background game. I don't know about the NFTs. Who knows? But regardless, he convinces the higher ups at NetDragon to give him one last shot to save Neopets, and he orchestrates a deal. Neopets would be spun out into an independently owned company. He would become the CEO. There are a number of undisclosed outside investments that happen at this time as well. A quote from him. Even through the last decade of its downfall, the lack of updates, the death of Flash leaving half the site non-playable, a quarter of our remaining users log on every day. I saw how tight-knit the remaining community was, and as a player myself, I resonated with the emotional attachment that had led these core users to stand by Neopets. I realized this is probably the most sticky customer base that you could find. During this time, they also announced that the site had been operating basically at a loss for the past decade, and that under Jumpstart's management, the Neopets team had been struggling to even keep the site afloat, let alone create new content or fix things. Like, pause real quick. I talked to some folks on Reddit that I'll come back to in a little bit, and they basically said that, like, during the Jumpstart days, they were like, could this site close down at any minute? Like, is this, like, just about to fall apart? Like, it seemed that close. With the money from the buyout and some funding from earlier in the year, they told Neopets fans that they would be, quote, equipped to make meaningful changes in pursuit of a Neopian renaissance. It was also said that they were going to take the work that they did on the 3D crypto game and turn it into a non-crypto game, so theoretically, everyone wins. They announced a rebranding and IP revival since the site had been decaying. First thing, stop the rot. Try to reverse it. They promised fans changes into the site in lines with what they had been asking for, you know, making it better on mobile, getting rid of a lot of the botting, fixing the economy, all this shit. Dominic spoke of some of the difficulties of fixing the site because each time that the site had changed ownership, they lost access to pieces of the files in the source code.
Shit.
So just like, right? How do you even fix this if you don't know how to fix it? They created an ambassador program and chose a handful of accounts to work directly with the Neopets team to improve their experience. So they're like, you're going to be our core people. You're unpaid, but like, we're, people who wanted to be there. And some of the folks who were there are people who worked on the original version of the site so that they can sort of give some of their knowledge. Okay, there's a resurgence to the site when Dominic takes over. Things start getting updated. The user base triples. It goes from 100,000 monthly users to a little over 300,000 monthly users, so it picks up. Dominic announces that the company is on track to be profitable by the end of 2024, and that the site's demographics are trending older, with folks mostly being drawn to the site for nostalgia reasons. They relaunch an official merch site. That's well received. And there's just been a slew of Neopet shit coming out in recent years. I'm going to give you a few of these. In 2024, they released a new trading card game called Neopets Battle Dome through Upper Deck, another company that just cannot fucking wait to print pieces of cardboard for money. I read some reviews that it's pretty decent. Like, it's really not that bad. It has the collectible card game issues of having each set that comes out is more powerful than the last, and that they're not really good about telling you how to use the mechanics. But from last I heard, it is still ongoing, and there are like small regional tournaments. So I don't have any numbers to show you. The repurposing of the Neopets metaverse stuff didn't apparently pan out, but they did end up making like a 3D-esque game. That island builders game they talked about, they repurposed it into something called Neopets Tales of Dacardia, and it's like some mobile builder game you can play that links up with the site. And one of the recent bits of weirdness that actually kind of got me into like, maybe I should polish off that Neopets episode I've been working on, involved a tabletop role-playing game.
Yes!
Neopets, yeah. Okay, so here's what's up. Neopets had this long-standing company called Geekify that they had worked with for many years to make their merch. And they licensed out the intellectual property to Geekify to make a tabletop role-playing game. In July of 2024, a Kickstarter goes live for this tabletop role-playing game, and it makes $427,000. Which seems to me like a lot of fucking money for a Neopets tabletop game in 2024, but like, okay, cool. It advertised a lighthearted role-playing experience. The source material, remember, is about taking care of pets, playing games with them. There are occasional battles, but like, they promised this like fun RPG. No classes, right? You would just gain points to spend in this really open-ended RPG system. And, they said like, well, look, like we know there is a little bit of combat on the Neopets site, but there's going to be all this other shit to do that isn't combat. Like you could get out of sticky situations with diplomatic approaches, and there'll be puzzles to solve, and there'll be like tabletop versions of the games, mini games and stuff. It'll be really fun.
This sounds like someone doesn't understand the tabletop RPG is, and they are just saying things.
Yep. So when the early document dropped for Kickstarter backers, I think it was earlier this year, what they found was a combat-heavy rehashing of D&D 5th edition, complete with the first adventure having drunk bandits that you have to fight. It discusses methods of killing the bandits and torturing them for information. It discusses this bracelet that they're after that some bandit won't wear because it's too feminine for him, and that's basically gross. Geekify asked in their feedback document, hey, will you give us like feedback on the perks? Like there's a whole perk system, kind of like talents. There were no perks in the document. Later on in the document, there was a discussion, and it went through how it's a good idea to discuss with your group beforehand how much sex you'd like to include in your games. Which brings me to this glorious post on Blue Sky.
Oh, man.
I agree. It's of utmost importance we clarify before we begin play as a group how much we are going to be clapping ka-cheeks. And then the cherry on top was, at the top of the playtest document, it read, The top of the fucking playtest document, it says, quote, John will steal anything you do with this project, and the people working on this have not been paid, had contracts forced on them, and John has not read nor understands these rules and demands more bullshit gets put in, whether it fits or not.
Cool. Awesome.
This was referencing John Taylor, the guy running the project.
Nice.
Geekify posts in response that the person who wrote that was a recent hire and there was a misunderstanding of what the work would be and that they had parted ways with them. And I can't confirm this. There's a lot of rumors that fly around, but I saw some posts claiming that a contractor on the project said that nobody on the team had any paid tabletop experience. So, no wonder that the thing is going poorly because no one's worked on a fucking tabletop game before.
Creating a tabletop game is super difficult. This takes people's years of experience playing these games to even get an idea of what makes something like a certain kind of tabletop game. I have tried it several times to get a system that it always turns out to be a game I already know or I already have, or it's really difficult. It's tough.
So the document gets taken down. The Neopets team puts out a statement saying that what was released was way different from what they had been shown internally, and sharing something that was so wholly against their brand might have violated their licensing agreement. And then in early March, just last month, Neopets announced that they were terminating their license with Geekify. And at present, no one knows what's happening with the RPG. No one knows what happened with that close to $500,000.
The community might be better off sitting down together and taking an RPG system that they kind of think fits and then just hacking it.
Yep. On March 26th of 2026, that's a couple of weeks ago, Neopets released a collection of mini-games on the Switch and on Steam. It was called Neopets Mega Mini Games Collection, the Neopian Arcade Odyssey. Relive the golden era of browser gaming with 25 classic Neopets minigames from Mirka Chase 2 to Termac Roll, all lovingly remastered with updated visuals and smoother controls. For the first time, you can enjoy these favorites on modern consoles and PC alone or with friends. It got absolutely abysmal reviews. It was a terrible, buggy mess. It has been a long time since I have gone onto a Steam page and seen pretty much that many negative reviews.
Yeah.
But hey, there's Neopets board game that's being crowdfunded right now called Neopia Quest that you could get on, depending on whether or not this episode releases by then. I think it's still up for another week.
Okay.
So they're still out there in 2026. They're still out there making shit tons of Neopets stuff. So
this is so weird.
Yeah, that's largely the long, strange, shambling story of Neopets, but we still have some stories to tell. Before we get into some of those, however many times Neopets has just fallen on its face, it always continues onward. And as I researched this episode, I kept thinking to myself, who are the people playing Neopets these days? What do they think of the current state of the game? So I made a Reddit post doing some research for this episode, and I just asked people, hey, what are your general thoughts on Neopets these days? Why do you still play? What are you looking for? What do you think of the new management? And first off, I got immediately downvoted. So I was like, okay, cool. I just fucking asked you a question. Fucking Reddit, right? Yeah. But then I got something close to 40 comments. And so I'll summarize what they think of Neopets today. The site is more stable and less buggy than it has ever been. Lots of the games work, even after the death of Flash. There are things that are busted if you dig a little. The site is more generous than it ever was, including getting items and money. And there is more content than there has been, including a new event that's stalled. It's been stalled for a while, but there is a new event. These days, the site is mostly about customization. So I saw it described as basically a dress-up simulator now, like a 90s dress-up simulator. I think that's fair. There is a big monetization push to try and get you to buy the premium or to spend real-life money that is pervasive. Is it too much? Debatable. Some people said it was fine. Some people hated it. In a similar vein, there are ads everywhere on the site unless you're using an ad blocker, which in 2026, if you're not using a fucking ad blocker, use an ad blocker. But I will say, Their marketing has apparently been pretty good in the last few years. They're going to all these conventions, and their convention booths are like swarmed. Like they've been at Comic-Con the last few years. People are like loving it. And given the sheer amount of merchandise that exists right now, I can see why there would be this sort of feeling for it. And you may go, well, why the fuck would I want to play this game? Well, the nostalgia of the old internet is definitely a draw. And you're like, well, what if I wasn't alive at that time? Dominic Law has some thoughts on it. Quote, I think that also makes it exciting for younger generations as well, because it's like a living historical relic. You can treat it as a museum if you want to understand what early internet culture, early gaming culture was like.
I think it serves as a historical document of what that time was about a lot on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a wrap up on the early folks from the story. I'm going to tell you some stories of people and then I'm going to tell you some stories of people who made the game, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit of legacy. And there's not too much left here, but Doug Doring. So here's Doug. In 2007, Doug founded Age of Learning Incorporated and launched a digital education program called ABC Mouse. The purpose of the program was to teach young children between the ages of 2 and 6 various basic subjects. It was a subscription model for individual users, but it was available for free to schools, libraries, and community organizations. The company was pretty successful, including working with the White House during the Obama administration to provide their services for free to folks who were living in public housing. The company still exists, and there have been studies that suggest that the kids who used the site saw improvements in their math and reading skills. Though, of course, due to Doug's deep association with Scientology, there wasn't Scientology stuff on the site, but he used profits from that to donate tens of millions of dollars from ABC Mouse to Scientology's legal slush fund, which they use to go after people, right? Yeah. However one may feel about Doug's association with Scientology, I do think that given what people said about him, I've read some stuff about him over the years. It does seem like he genuinely cared about helping children. And he gave a statement, like knowing that he was going to die, he gave a statement to his company. And here's part of it that I thought was useful. My greatest satisfaction in life has been to see tens of millions of kids benefit from our work, to see the trust we have been given by parents and teachers, and to watch as study after study show that we are moving the needle in education. We are changing lives. It is no longer a question of whether we are succeeding, but the order of magnitude of our impact. I look to the day when we can help billions of kids around the world. It's a lofty peak, and we won't get there overnight, but with all of us pushing and keeping that mountaintop in sight, we will wake up one day looking out at the world that we have changed for the better. That is my wish and why we are here. So, it does seem like he genuinely cared.
Yeah, seems like.
But, what about Adam and Donna?
What about them?
So,
what
about them? In 2013, Adam stated that he, Donna, and a former colleague from Meteor Games were going to make a new game. Donna hosted an AMA on the Neopets subreddit in 2014 and told everybody that the game would be called Moglings. But then, only a few months later, the project was scrapped. In interviews, Donna claims that they had been trying to make their original version of what they had wanted Neopets to be. And then they stumbled across the blockchain in 2014. Dogs, your face. They thought that putting a game on the blockchain would mean that it could persist there forever, it could never be taken down, and given what happened with Meteor Games and their Island game, that thought was appealing to them, right? Yeah. No company could come in and just take this. So in 2020, they announced that they're making a free-to-play 3D MMORPG called Dragons. Dragginz. Dragons.
Dragons. This is kind of bagging Sorry. Oh no, is this AI art?
Oh, 100%. It's on the blockchain, Dachz. Of course it's AI art.
Oh no.
You could hatch and raise dragons to go adventuring with. You could trade items and spells and all kinds of other dumb shit as NFTs with each other. Quote, Our goal is to create a game that is self-sufficient. It will feed itself with the tokens it needs in order to fund the cycle, and then it turns into a monster that keeps chugging away. It is designed to make enough to pay employees, cover costs, and future developments. We'll never sacrifice gameplay for profit. And then, in 2023, a guy comes in to the Neopets Discord. Now, to be clear, this isn't the official Neopets Discord. This is like the Discord for the Neopets subreddit. Okay. He's calling himself Adam and saying that he's the creator of Neopets. And at first people are like, who the fuck is this troll? Right? But then it started to become clear that it was actually him. And he started to, he had this thought and he was like, oh, Neopets did this NFT thing in 2021. I'm making an NFT thing. I bet the people who play Neopets would really love my NFT game. He seemed completely fucking oblivious to what had happened with the Neopets NFTs.
Oh, no.
So he comes in and starts talking about his fucking crypto game. And people are like, dude, what the fuck? Get out of here, grifter. Okay. And he starts getting really angry that people don't like his NFT game. And he just starts saying things like, well, they just don't understand what crypto is all about. But then, when it became clear he wasn't going to win any fights about crypto, he started telling everybody how much he hated Neopets, how he wished he had never made it, how much the fan base sucks, how he was going to take money and buy Neopets and destroy it in front of everyone. And then someone claiming to be Donna got involved, and this person claims to have found a single post in the 18 plus section of the Discord that was asking about how to sell used sex toys, a post which nobody even replied to, and then that user got banned. And she decided that that was the current face of the Neopets community. She says, if that's what Neopets has become now, I am ashamed to even be remotely associated with it. It is now dead to me. It is shocking that they are masquerading as a game that is inclusive and open to all, but really they are just filthy pervs.
This has so much like Facebook mob vibes. like
I mean, she is a Gen Xer. No offense to the Gen Xers that listen out there.
Completely incapable of like filtering information for like its statistical relevance to about anything. Oh boy.
Adam got himself banned from the Neopets Discord and the subreddit, and his final picture was this one. Himself flipping off the camera and saying of commenters in the Neopets subreddit, I hope you live forever in poverty.
Okay. For this entire episode, I kind of had a neutral perspective on them, and I kind of had like a positive thought about that because they kind of blocked this whole Scientology thing out.
Mm-hmm.
But now my reading kind of dips into the negative, like, oh man, these guys should have just like, if once they got like rid of Neopets, they could have just stayed away and like, oh man. Oh, I hope they live a good life.
Well, I have updates on them. He later then went into the comments section of a Neopets fan site and demanded that he be unbanned, saying that he had been on a combination of alcohol and sertraline, and then he didn't apologize for anything. He also said, I'm going to make Dragons the biggest game in the world just to spite you guys, and you know I'm going to do it, and you're going to hate it every step of the way.
Go get help, Adam.
In October of 2025, the official account for Dragons announced that they would be entering, quote, hibernation, and that they needed to pause development of the game for a while. They fired a bunch of their teams and said that they needed to spend time working on an NFT marketplace called Toko. Quote, think of it as hunkering down to survive through the long, cold crypto winter. When spring comes, Dragons will be ready to roar. Well, Dachz, it's spring, and I've seen nothing to indicate that Dragons will be roaring anytime soon. It really seems to me like they have had no real success since Neopets.
Don't be so cynical. It's going to be spring for another month, and we're going to have fresh news in just a few weeks.
I can't wait. I can't wait to sell all of my possessions to buy Dragons NFTs. I'm so pumped.
Okay.
The value. Okay, let's talk a little bit about legacy of Neopets, and then I'm going to tell you a couple of stories from folks who have played Neopets. I find Neopets to be fascinating. Neopets, after everything, refuses to die. It just refuses to die. There have been so many times that the community has thought that the site was going to be shut down, especially in the Jumpstart days. I am in a way impressed that it exists, that people still play it, and that it's apparently still profitable. I think that it's an interesting, it is an interesting relic. I think also that it was like an early form of like a social network before social media was really a thing. Kids are getting these like innate lessons in like money management in some ways and like fucking coding HTML and shit before you realize that those were applicable life skills.
I did like this about Animals with the had that stuff because it taught you about like basic scripting. Yeah.
Yep. And it did solidify at least a chunk of the pet game market, though in different ways than like things like Pokemon did. But one thing that I think really stuck around that I thought about a lot as I was writing this episode was that other companies started picking up on the idea of immersive advertising. So remember, advert games had been around for a while, like advertisement games. I mean, like we just, our previous episode last summer was on Chex Quest. That is a pure advertisement game. And there have been many over the years. But with this model, other brands started realizing how easy it was to make games in Flash that were just straight up advertisements and get people to play them, right? So you started seeing all these copycats. General Mills put together the Millsbury Arcade that had a ton of games. And it wasn't just them. It was Disney, it was Barbies, it was Webkins, it was Nickelodeon, it was Build-A-Bear. They all had all these online spaces for you to exist in, and they wanted a chunk of that market. And in 2026, some of this really feels quaint because advertising is just fucking everywhere now. There's even just within video games. So there's crossover items in video games, IPs finding their ways into other ones, the Fortnite effect, right? Every game bleeding into another one to capture your attention more and more and more. And Neopets, interestingly, in the modern day has moved away from this model of internal advertising. Like you can't go to like the fucking Disney theater anymore. It's all generic stuff now. So like they pioneered it, but they don't really do it anymore. So I find that fascinating. And that's kind of the one thing that stuck out to me was that deluge of content of putting advertisements in games. It came from that.
Yeah, it kind of ticks a lot of these boxes for the initially for the internet, like how advertisement and gaming got intertwined, but also the other things like the entire web browser gaming scene that was so huge and so important. I kind of find this really nice example of the internet of the time, as I said already.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let me tell you a few stories and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. So I know a lot of you have listened to other episodes. You might know that I like to poll some of our regulars and ask them about their stories. And if you ever have a story you want to share with us, feel free to email me or, pop by our Discord. But so the thing that I think the thing to note about Neopets is I had a lot of people that I messaged who said that they remembered playing it, but that it was really short or that they didn't remember a lot about it or that they played it at a friend's house, but they weren't like into it. So finding like good material, there's a lot less stories this time around from our regulars. Plus, you kind of had to be there in sort of that window, Okay, so our friend Picaro says, I played Neopets, but I don't think I played Neopets right. Like, I don't know what I was even supposed to be doing on that site. I remember I had a Gellert or whatever. They're just dogs. I had a little dog guy that was like level 4, and I adopted a pet from the pound that was like level 96. I played the same 4 games over and over again, but you could only get gold off of them like 3 times a day. So once I played my 12 games, that was it for me. I remember refreshing in shops like refreshing the page in shops. Because sometimes you got free items, staying broke on purpose to hit up a place that also kind of gave you free stuff if you sucked. And there were toys, and I was obsessed with pets. I don't know if there were even forums on that site. I didn't message people. It was very weird.
Okay, nice.
I should also note that Pigaro mentioned, we talked a lot about how she was really into Gaia Online, which was like a site where you had like an avatar. It was kind of a forum thing. My wife, Andrea, didn't play Neopets, but she was into Gaia Online, and so she empathizes. But that was like another early 2000s kind of thing.
I must say that I think Germany had its own isolated web browser MMO scene, so I might not even have any canned intersections with you Americans about any of this. I don't. Neopets might have been also in Germany, but I've never known anyone that played it. I might have to ask some friends.
I would be curious. Okay, so our friend Carrie, she said, I played Neopets with 2 to 3 other friends in junior high and early high school. I think what actually kept us engaged in Neopets for so long was the website making aspect. Every Neopet you owned gave you the capacity to make a single website for them on literally anything you want. However, you could only edit the default page they gave you with HTML, so we all spent so much time learning HTML to make stupid early 2000s websites on Neopets before we had MySpace. During the pandemic, a bunch of us in your Discord, this is our Discord, got on the topic of Neopets, and I decided to make an account to poke around and see what it looked like in 2020. We stumbled upon the Adoption Center and found we could adopt an 11-year-old Neopet. So we did, and had a stupid fun time. I check on my now 16-year-old Neopet about once a year and feed him from the soup kitchen. He's probably fine. Here's a picture of him. His name, as best I can pronounce it, is Diogababirubegurubid.
I'm going to try it. Diogababirubegurubid. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And it's like a cheek, so we gotta be clapping him.
Clap, clap. Gotta clap those cheeks. Well, how much are we clapping cheeks? We need to talk this out with the group. She says, he came with that name. He came with that name. No, we can't change it.
Also level 2.
She says
she's taking very good care.
Well, she only feeds him at the soup kitchen once a year. He looks very sad.
The worst state that can be in.
Yes, they can't actually die, but that dying is their hunger level, that they can't go past that. They can't actually die. So she just lets him live in this state of hunger perpetually for the entire year till he gets his yearly soup.
That's good.
She did say, incidentally, they all do still have websites you can edit. Never messed with this, guys, but it's here if you're curious. And she provides a link. I will put it in the sources list of this episode if you want to go on and see Diogababirubegurubid and maybe say hi to her. But that's not the last story, Dachz. Because I was into Neopets.
You filthy fake. Tell me about it.
I couldn't tell you how I found Neopets for the first time, but I know specifically when I made my account. It was in the summer of 2000. I'm 12 years old. I'm at my grandmother's on my dad's side. And so like she didn't live terribly far from us. So sometimes in the summer, I would go to her house and hang out for the day. And they lived on this beautiful piece of property, had woods and ponds and a stream, all these beautiful animals. A bunch of my family lived there. What did I want to fucking do? Get on the fucking internet.
In the basement.
I wanted... Yep, I wanted to get on the computer, and so somehow I stumble across Neopets, and I'm 12 years old, and I make an account, and there's one issue. To have full access to the site, you had to be 13 years old, and I was 12. So Dachz, I lied.
Oh, no.
I lied on Neopets. And I told them I was 13. And I felt so bad I lied about it.
Was the age verification just you typing in how old you are?
Yes.
Yes, how else would they have done it?
Yeah, that's literally all it was.
Most
And I was
people have
like,
my
oh,
ideas,
yeah.
but as a kid, you don't know what that means. If that would have any repercussions at any point, yes, you don't understand.
Right? I'm like, what if like the people who run the site realize that I'm actually not old enough, and like, what do I do? And I was like all worried, but here's the thing, man. I wanted to play Neopets, and if you were a kid younger than 13 and you wanted access to the like all of the stuff, your parents had to fax a permission slip to them, and I didn't want that. I didn't want anybody knowing that I had lied, so I was like, oh, okay. And then Neopets fucking took me over. I wanted to be on it all the time. It was so different than what I had played before. There's this community and it has an economy and there's items and there's rare shit and it has events and there's stuff to do. And it gripped me and I was like obsessed. And I told all my friends about it and they got accounts too. And we were all playing Neopets and I played it for a couple of years. And I think I was maybe 14 or 15 when I finally quit. I don't know exactly, but I know I quit for a specific reason. And see, Dachz, there was a game on the site that was from Cartoon Network. And it was this like boring game where you had to go in and you would guess what, like there was like this puzzle thing and you had to guess what cartoon character you were looking at. And if you got it wrong, you got like some shitty amount of Neo points. But if you got it right, you got a bunch of Neo points. And so I played it for the first time and I got a whole shit ton of Neo points. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I went back to it again and I realized I couldn't get the points a second time, but it was a lot of points. And then I had an idea. What if I made another account? And so what I did is I made another account and then I went and I played the Cartoon Network game and then I got the points. And then I navigated that fake account to my real account store where I had a junk item in the store that was selling for the exact amount of Neo points that the fake dummy account had. And then I did that and I didn't get in trouble. And I was like, oh, cool. So then I did it again, and then I did it again, and then I did it again. And anytime I needed Neo points, I would go and I would do this. And I did this whole fucking process again and again and again and again and again. And then one day I got an email that my account had been permanently banned because I had made 27 dummy accounts and someone finally caught on. What was my mistake? I used my real email for every dummy account. So when they came on and said, why do you have 27 accounts on the same email permanently banned? I was like, my hubris. Years of playtime, gone forever, completely devastated, lesson learned. So
I told how I found you. They were like, oh man, I think we have some double accounts from some people. You should probably check for that if that happened by accident. And then there's like, whoa, there's this kid. And they have like 27 double accounts. Like, did they do this by accident or is this, oh no? And then they kind of understood what was happening. They're like, okay, we just got to ban him. And then they got the ban him.
So I told my brother that I was going to be recording this with you. And he's like, oh, what are you doing an episode on? And I was like, oh, I'm doing it on Neopets. And he started to laugh. And he goes, you're going to tell him how you got your account banned? I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And he goes, dude, I remember that day. You were distraught. He's like, you were so bummed. But hey, man, you fucked around and found out.
It's a good lesson.
So, in preparation for this episode, I made a new Neopets account because I wanted to know if it was true. So here's my Neopet.
You gotta get that, man. It's your 28th account. No, show me.
It's my 28th account. Here's my new pet, Professor Tofu, the Red Kugra. Apparently now they have this thing called a Neo Pass, which you make one account for all of their games now, which I guess makes sense. And as I was playing around on it, it's all there, man. Preserved mostly as it was. Like, a lot of things are broken. Like, I made my account and it gave me an error. And I was like, what? Or like, I found like, oh, do this tutorial. And it just kicked back like a 404 error. But like, a lot of that was quickly resolved. And so like, you kind of have to peel back a lot of the layers if you want to find the things that are broken. And like, it took me a little while to get used to the site again, because by design, the whole process is kind of directionless. And like, maybe that's the appeal, right?
Yeah.
Like, just get on, make some points, buy some weird items, dress up your pet.
Somehow. Yeah. It's like a process of figuring things out. Yeah.
Okay. Before we finish up, you can say no. I have one last optional activity for you.
Do I have to make my own Neopet?
It has been requested that you make a Neopet and narrate your experience, and you might go, Tyler, we're in the middle of recording an episode. I don't have time to make an account and do a verification email. Boy, howdy you do, because I already fucking made you one. Here's your login information.
Sure.
And what I would like you to do is stream it to me.
Let's do that. Okay, I'm streaming my process of Neopets now. I'm opening the Neopets page.
Okay. All right, you're going to the top right, and you're going to click login/sign up, and you just go log in with NeoPass. Okay. That's the second one.
Where do I have to click, grandson? How does any of this work?
They don't have regular Neopets accounts anymore, Grandpa. It's called NeoPass now. You need a NeoPass.
I could pass you in today, but what does this have to do with anything?
Oh, Grandpa, I'm going to be so glad when you pass.
Maybe I'm going to Neopass. Okay, now let's get...
Neopets don't die, they Neopass.
I'm not going to save this. Okay, I logged in. Now I'm going to narrate the experience.
Okay.
So there's a page. It's kind of yellow, greenish, and it says profile. My name is... No, welcome to Neopet. Okay.
That's your account.
My name is Dachz Freund.
I made your...
Tyler looked up what the German for friend is. That's good.
Oh, you just assume I didn't innately know it? I didn't innately know it.
Okay, then there's like all of these games that you can also download for Google Play. It's Fairy Fragments and Tales of the Cardia and Mega Mini Games Collection. All that stuff that is like not nice. And then what do I do? Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell what to do. Okay, so there's like a little house thing on top. I click on it, and it probably will. Okay.
Yep. Okay. This is exactly what I thought you would have. Go back to the previous page.
Neopass. Okay, Neopass gets needed. And then settings, profile.
Do you see how it says Neopets? It says launch right there. You have to click launch. Right?
This is so...
You go to neopets.com, right? Why?
Can I get to a page where I just see my name? I click it, I guess.
You have to click that.
Oh, because I can have several accounts. There's like animated cheeks. Oh man, there's advertisement banners. Oh boy.
Where's your ad blocker? What are you doing?
I don't use this computer to browse for anything. I just game on this one, so I don't use my browser for anything. So this is I've never got an ad blocker here because I don't need to. Okay, I can add. Okay, now I see like a meadow and there's a rainbow and I see like things. I can add a Neopet. We'll add a Neopet. Adopt one. Okay, I'm gonna adopt one, I guess.
Oh, so you're just gonna get one from the pound?
Well, okay. Guys,
I see.
If you're gonna get a pet, guys, always adopt one. This is all German now. Okay. Ist Content keine ausgesetzt?
It's in German. It's in German because I set your account to German.
Oh, nice. Melde unangebracht. Oh, I can report content. And now I won't get any... Okay. Oh boy, this is roughly translated.
Just watching Dachz navigate this is fantastic because I was just like,
man, this is so
how do I even play this game?
Yeah. I have Neo points, 2,500. Okay. What is happening? Okay, go back.
Well, you don't have a pet. You have to have a pet.
I'm going to create a Neopet now because this other thing didn't work. Okay. Oh, man, there's so many. I want... There's the one that looks too eager. No, that one was didn't right.
What was his name? Scrump or some shit?
I'm going to scrunt you.
Scrunt. Yeah, Scrunt. There's no Scrunt on this site anymore.
Pickle. They do like Quiggle.
Mm-hmm.
Think.
Mm-hmm.
I like Chia too. Okay, I'm gonna describe them. Like Chia looks like a lemming that was kind of blown up. Techo is like a gecko. Quiggle is a frog.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think of Chias as like eggplants with arms and legs.
And all the others are just furry representations.
They are sentient, so.
How is that written somewhere down? Like, why do you say that so confidently? They are sentient beings. Like do they?
Like, go hang out with your Neopet and they'll go, that was so much fun. I love hanging out with you. That food was delicious. Let's go play games.
I'm gonna make a Quiggle. I'm gonna make it red. It's gonna be it's a bit old fashioned that I can only be male or female, which is odd. I'm gonna name my Quiggle Mr. Hump. Hump Bump.
Okay, Mr. Hump Dat Pump. Okay, you have to click off and then click somewhere, and then it should tell you if that name is available or if there's something wrong with Mr.
Invalid characters, please. Or maybe I can't use spaces. Maybe
you can't use spaces. No, Mr. Hump Dat Pump.
I think it'll be fine.
Mr. Hump Dat Pump is available. Oh, this is one of the best days of my life.
Okay, what does your Neopet like to live? In the city, in the forest, in the ocean, in the jungle? It's Mr. Hump Dat Pump lives in the city, man. Where else would he live? What does your Neopet like doing? Oh, find food, discover the country, find friends, discover treasure. What?
Oh my fucking god!
Harass others? Yes, he loves to harass other people.
So Dachz is filling out a questionnaire about what his Neopet likes as ads cascade across the screen.
How does your Neopet greet others? It tries to find friends, very friendly, cute, smiling cute. He runs away. He screams insults. He attacks the weaker ones. I'm gonna say cute smile.
Mr. Hump Dat Pump, when he meets people, he's got a real cute smile.
And so I have to choose the stats. Either the movement, there's 3 stats. It's strength, defense, and movement, which have not been translated.
Mm-hmm.
And I can choose if movement is the highest, defense or strength. And of course, Mr. Hump Dat Pump needs a lot of movement. So this one. So let's go. Yay.
Okay. Holy shit.
Okay, now this is how things I can do. I'm going to do one thing, and then I think we can be done with this.
Okay. I would say you can either go explore some of the old pages or go play a game. That's probably what I would tell you were the things of note.
Does my Neopet play
Mr. Hump Dat Pump?
Does my Neopet play the game, or do I play the game? Like how?
I think it's kind of unclear.
How do I interact with my... Oh, there's a picture of my Neopet. Mr. Hump Dat Pump is constantly staring at me.
Yeah, he's up there in the top corner.
I want to put some clothes on them.
Oh, you have to go to your inventory and then you have to move the clothes from your inventory to your closet and then you can put it on Mr. Hump Dat Pump.
Is my inventory?
Great question. If you go to the left side and you click on Mr. Hump Dat Pump's glaring visage, you can go down to inventory
Oh, you look sad.
Then,
That was so bad.
you. It's really bad. Oh no, we were once human, overlaid over top of Mr. Hump Tap Pump. Well, I thought you would have a starter clothing item, but I don't think you do.
Can I?
Oh my god.
Wizard. The shop wizard.
Oh no, that's terrible. Don't use the shop wizard. You'll find nothing.
The shop wizard can find these pants.
Oh my god. Watching Dachz stumble around this website with a frog called Hump Tap Pump is just fantastic. It's just fantastic. Well,
he seems he says he's happy and he's very like he ate enough. So I'm just gonna leave him alone for now. I don't know. I think we're not gonna go.
Come back to him in a year.
He's gonna look very sad. Okay, let's log out. Let's leave this alone. Thanks for showing me. I already remember why these kinds of games were not very accessible if you didn't have a friend group that was already an expert in it.
Well, luckily for you, I already sent you a friend request so that we can start playing Neopets, you see.
Okay.
Well, that gave me everything I was looking for. Thank you for that. And what do you think of Neopets in 2026, Dachz?
I think it overstays its welcome, but I understand why people would still want to play it if they were kind of into it when it was a thing. But I don't see where something like this has a place in today's world.
Yeah, the thing I keep running into is like, so it's great to have people who played it a long time ago, who can look back and go, oh, like, I love this, or I had these old items, or here's, whatever. I always wanted a fairy Kugra or whatever, and now I've got it. And that's all great. But, like, how do you get new people? Like, who's coming around who's new, who is like, yes, I want to get into Neopets for the first time in 2026. And so I don't have an answer to that question, but I think about that, like, what's the longevity of that site? But look, every time it has fallen apart, it somehow shambles onward. So here we are.
It's so weird because you have to have a degree to understand what you got to do to get, like, put on pants, man. If I can't put hands on Mr. Hump Tap Pump, he's not gonna hump any pumps.
Well, everybody, I hope the 8-month wait was worth it for this bullshit. So that's Neopets, everybody. I will put links to each of our Neopets in the sources if you would like to go see Gababa Gaburavid or Professor Tofu or Mr. Hump Tap Pump. So, well, Dachz, I think that's it for us. Any parting words?
Thank you very much. This was very enjoyable. I love this. I hope you have a good time.
You're very welcome.
And all of you, take care of yourselves.
Yes, be good to each other out there. And I'll see you all in Neopia. Well, not really. I'll probably see you for the next one. Catch y'all later, friends.
Bye.
See ya. All right, it's pee break time. BRB. Pee break time. Pee break time. Pee break time. Gotta pee.
So I'm not going to go on a pee break, but I can tell you a story. I still have to think about it. So I've been working at the garden all day, and my hands are full of blisters because I've been carrying stones. And 50 years ago, someone put concrete in my garden to kind of fix a metal post to the ground. I had to dig a 1 meter deep hole, which for all you Americans is about 3 feet, I guess. And this was tough. And I did manly man work today. And the only thing I want to do now is sleep. But because Tyler is a very good friend of mine, and he put a lot of effort into this episode, I'm very happy to be here talking about it. So if you have a good friend that you really like to spend time with, shoot them a message that you appreciate them, and if they have time, you want to talk to them. Because it's good to take care of your good friends and to meet them and talk to them. I haven't talked to Tyler in, I think, 8 months, and it's really nice to spend time with him, aside from all the fun we're having about this episode. So, yeah. I hope all of you are having a good time. I know life is a bit overwhelming at the moment, but it's going to get better at some point. Must, right? Well, this is one of the more tame Dachz monologues. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't think my mind has anything more to offer today. And Tyler's taking a long piss.